Okay, folks, well, welcome to the Term 1 event for the Central Queensland GEG for 2020. If you've never been here before, we're now recording and we're live on YouTube. So just keep that in mind as we go through what happens this afternoon. So if you're new to GEGs, Google Educator Groups, they're communities of educators who share, inspire, empower other teachers to meet the needs of students through technology solution, both in the classroom and beyond. And I guess that's how we're supposed to work all the time. It's run by educators, for educators, and although we have Google as the primary partner and inspiration, GEGs are independent communities. So they're designed for any educator who's passionate about meeting the needs of their students through technology solutions and collaborating with other educators who feel the same way. So for our first event for 2020, we're indebted to have with us this afternoon Sylvia Eames, Danny Stranieri, Laura Ord, Dawn Goodman, and perhaps, depending on how long this takes, we might have Chris Betcher from Google who'll be joining us. And each of these will be presenting topics for both primary and secondary colleges, and generally stuff that's related to technology that we can use in our classroom to improve our teaching and learning. So I think nearly everyone has got their microphone muted, but if you want to ask a question of a presenter, feel free to unmute and go from there. So first up this afternoon, we have Sylvia Eames from St Anne's Serena. So Sylvia's topic is insert learning and how I use it for comprehension. So Sylvia, over to you.
Okay, hello everyone. So this afternoon I'm going to talk you through insert learning, which is basically a way to make websites interactive, and you can make questions and quizzes and things like that as well. So I'll try and share my screen, hopefully. Okay, so is that working, Paul?
Yes, that's terrific. Thank you.
Okay, so insert learning, the easy way to add it is it's a Chrome extension, but if you click Google it, you can add it to Chrome. It sits up here. Oh, it's a bit slow. It sits up here as the little IL. So when I add that on, I'm able to add sticky notes, quizzes, and things like that. It's just loading. So for free, you can add 5 different things. So it's not going to let me do it because I have 5 on there already. So I'll log in and I'll show you what I have used in my classroom. And it does link to Classroom as well. So this is one that I used. I've made a solids, liquids and gases website interactive, and you'll see in a moment I can add video so I can explain the task before I begin. So that was me talking in my classroom. Then I can add different questions, multiple choice questions. So over here, I simply can add a sticky note if I wanted to say something, a question, and it can mark itself then. I can have long questions. And then what sort of happens is I've linked mine to my classroom. So when I go through, I can see all the kids, how they've gone, what they've got. That was not a good question. Different things like that, and it gives them the points. And then I can also share that to my classroom, which then looks like this, and I can see their score as well. That's rounded up to a percentage, so it's out of 100. And that's it. Do we have any questions?
look, I'm sure people will think of questions as we go, but it looks like this afternoon we will have a bit of a theme going here. I mean, obviously what you've shown us there, Sylvia, relates very, very closely to Google Classroom. And I think you'll probably see a lot of stuff that relates to Google Classroom here this afternoon. And very, very much by chance rather than by design. So Sylvia, thanks for that. That is a great free Chrome extension to be using in the classroom. And it's something that everyone ought to just at least have a look at because it's a great product.
Yeah,
right.
I find it great for just letting kids, if it's a hard website or you want them to interact with a website, kids find it hard to go through a lot of text. So by adding like little interactive bits and questions and things like that as they go along, it can help them along. Okay, thank you.
That's great. And I think it relates both to primary and secondary. So that's terrific. So next up we have Danny Stranieri from Central College, and Danny's going to give us some insights on Wolfram Alpha, and she's going to get the facts straight for us.
Hi guys, I love being able to hear like everyone from Shalom in the next room over having a bit of a giggle. So if you just give me a quick second and I will just share some facts with you. So can we all see that PowerPoint presentation there?
All good.
Fabulous. Okay, cool. So Wolfram Alpha, and there's a Google Chrome extension for it as well. It's basically a search engine that is optimized to give you only the facts. So only facts and data about mostly anything. So if we just have a really quick look, these are some of the types of things and types of information that you can search for using the Wolfram Alpha search engine. So it's really heavily blended towards STEM, but there's also fantastic applications for things like maths, English, science, history, PE, tourism, all that sort of stuff. So these are just some samples of things that you can look for in maths. I'll give you all the sort of like word vomit to start with, and then I'll show you how the program actually works. These are types of questions. There's only some of the types of questions and things you can enter into the search engine, and it'll give you all of the outcomes for you. There's lots of really cool stuff for maths in general, particularly for senior maths, specialist maths, all of your sciences. So you can ask questions related to chemical elements, do calculations for physics, convert units of measurement, statistics for HPE, for health and medicine. What have we got? Society and culture. So you can look up specific dates and find out all the things that happen on that particular date, historical figures, geographical information, demographic and statistics, everyday stuff, really simple stuff. There's little fun facts like why did the chicken cross the median strip? They put these little quirky little things in there that you can, even if you've got like a PC class or a home group and you want kids to find out a fun fact, a random fun fact about something, this is a great place to go. I'll skip past all the pro features and I'll see if there's a way that we can actually share this presentation to you directly so you can look at all of the fun stuff in your own time. So this is what the website looks like when you go to it. I'm just going to go to the live version of it. Please let me know if I'm speaking too fast too. That's something I'm not really great for when I'm nervous. Okay, so this is the website. There are a couple of options when you start figuring out how this works. So you can search by topic. If it's a particular subject that you're teaching or a particular unit of work that you're teaching, you can find something from the list of topics that relates to that. So let's say if I was to go primary school side of things, elementary math, you click on it and it'll give you a list of suggested types of questions and things that you can look for. So let's say, look, even word questions, like it can solve word questions for you. So if I click on that word question they have there, just as an example, It'll have a think, analyze all the words, and then it'll give us a result. So it'll show it as an algebraic formula. It'll give us all the data behind it. There's a pro feature called step-by-step solutions. So if you were to use that pro feature, it'll actually break down the arithmetic for you and show how that problem was solved, which can be very cool. Another thing I'm going to use as an example, so I'm just going to type in a single search term. So let's say I type in mercury. So mercury could be interpreted as all sorts of different things. So to start with, Wolfram says, so it's assuming that mercury is a chemical element. So it's going to give us all the information about mercury that relates to chemistry. So we've got where it is on the periodic table, an image, its atomic information, boiling points, melting points, basically all of the data that relates to mercury as a chemical. And so if you think, okay, no, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm teaching my students about the planets. We want to talk about mercury in terms of the planet. So we can select that option and it'll give us all of the facts and information about Mercury, the planet. So distance from Earth, orbital period, its radius. I quite like the temperatures. So if you're finding out what temperature it is on different planets, what their constituents are, what it's made up of, location in the solar system, all of the facts that Wolfram can extract from the internet, it'll put them all together on a page for you. So it's a fantastic research tool. If you have kids that are doing a project on something in particular, you know that they're not going to get drowned under all of your typical Google searches that'll just give you the highest paid ranked websites for a certain search term. You know that your students are going to be getting the relevant information all in one place. So that's planet-wise. We can also look at Mercury. So we can look at words. This is something that's really helpful about, where's my word? Actually, let's go history. Sorry, so we can look at Mercury as a mythological figure. If you're doing Greek or Roman history, you can then search it from that perspective, and we get, so you get the picture. It gives you all sorts of relevant information. A lot of things will be hyperlinked to relative pages if you wanted your students to explore things a little bit further. Lots and lots of fun stuff. So when you start out exploring it, just start by having a look at the examples. Pick the examples that you think are relevant to your subject matter and have a dig through the types of questions, the types of information that you can get through this search engine. So that is it. Thanks for listening to my TED Talk. Just kidding. Do you have any questions? Oh, thanks, team. Love you all. I will be coming in for a coffee in a minute.
Hi, Danny. I have a question. Sorry.
All right.
My name's Kylie. We're at Tennham Sands.
Sorry.
That looks awesome. Is there a way to make it specific to Australian topics? So, for instance, we're doing a science project looking at different local plants, but if I type in the pandanus tree, it sort of shows American maps. I couldn't quite figure out how to change.
Yes, that is a downside to it. So Wolfram as a company and as an entity is very US.
Okay, so, that's all right.
Yeah, you can get basic geographical information. Say I did a test run with it and I put in our town, Bundaberg, and it gives you all of the census data in terms of population and things like that. But other topics, it can be a little bit hit and miss. So it always helps to check before you send the kids down their exploration route of what they're doing. There's other things you can do with it where you can compare and contrast things. So if I was to put, say, Apple and put versus window in there with Windows with a different syntax, it'll actually compare the data of those two companies or those two products. So that's that's another thing that you can find through the examples is a different way of framing certain questions and certain keywords, and it can give you different information and different outcomes.
Yeah, okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for that, Danny. There's some really cool stuff there with Wolfram Alpha. I mean, I had always thought of it just as being a maths tool, but you've opened my eyes to some great possibilities there, particularly in the STEM arena. So look, next we have Laura Ord. Laura is from Central Qld, and she's going to share her thoughts on classroom organisation. Over to you, Laura.
Thank you so much. I feel like a doofus because I had no picture for a while because I didn't realise my new computer has a little slider camera, like lens hider. I realise I'm probably preaching to the converted here with regards to the classroom, but I just wanted to talk about how I organise the classroom in a way that's really easy for my students to find resources and to keep it all streamlined and organised, basically. So I've got my Google Classroom sort of dashboard here with all my different classes and things like that. I'll show you my geography one just as an example. So one of the things I've noticed that some people struggle with regards to the classroom is how do they use the stream as opposed to using the classwork tab. So for myself, I save the stream for generally the everyday stuff. So where I just need to communicate with students. So I tend to use a post per week. So we've got my week 7 one here. I've finished this week with my class. So over the course of the week, I've got, this is our learning goal from that lesson. Here's the work we did. And down the bottom, here are the resources that I used. So all the slideshows, the videos. I also, one thing I started doing, which is especially useful for my students who maybe have trouble with writing quickly and getting information down, is I have my phone in class with me, and I always, if I write anything on the board, I take a photo of it and upload it to the classroom for them. So they've always got that information. And also if they're away, they haven't missed any information I've put up on the board. The one with the classwork tab, especially when they put the new setup in, because it used to just be you could do assignments and that's it. Now we've got a whole host of different things that you can upload here to the classwork. So I think when people are deciding how am I going to post information or how am I going to post resources, they need to have a think about what level of interactivity do I need from this. So for me, I tend to only use an assignment if it's something that I either need the students to have a copy of the exact document I'm doing that I want to keep track of so I can track their progress, or if it's something that's going to have a due date, because then it's going to pop up in their calendar and be useful for them as well. I'll just quickly bring up one of my classes that I've used last year. So their classwork tab is a bit more, there's a bit more in it. So I use topics as a means to organize my stuff as well. So I might have the stuff, the activities within the class. I used assignment for this because I created one slideshow that the whole class could interact with. So everyone had their own slide and used it that way. Under the assessment tab, I always make sure that the most recent task is the one that's up the very top to make it easy for them to find. So it is very much click and drag, and it's, I should probably put that one back where it should. I'll fix it later. So making sure what they're doing, what's most up to date or what's due next is at the top of their list. And also using this option of creating course material as opposed to creating something as an assignment. So by using material as opposed to assignment, it means that you don't have to worry about things like due dates. But so I use material for stuff like I put a copy of their syllabus up there for them. Because I create Quizlet, lists and things for every unit that I do. I give them the link to that Quizlet that I've done for them. And so that's a course material item because it's not something I need to interact with them about. It's not something that has a due date, so course material makes more sense as an organizer there. So I think for using the classroom in a way that makes it so the kids don't have to think about where they can find stuff. So I limit the stream, like I said, I'll limit the stream to the things that this is the everyday stuff, and the classwork is where, okay, no, this is more specific. I need to interact with you, or it has a due date, or this is going to be really helpful for revision. So it's just, I just try to keep it organized in a way that they don't have to think about where stuff is. It also is helpful when I'm trying to find things on the web app, on the phone app as well, because I do have the app on my phone. It's the easiest way to upload the photos when I take them. It also makes things much, much easier to follow using the phone application as well. So yeah, that's about it. Thank you.
So Laura, can I just ask a question? Do you use the extension, the classroom extension, to be able to upload stuff fairly quickly?
I tend to, the classroom is one app that, well, a tab that I have open all day, every day, sort of thing. So we have this extension installed. I love using that extension to push websites to kids.
Yep.
So I like it to push the websites to them. But I always, if I know that I'm going to use a website during that class, I'll have it preloaded in my stream for them as well. So they know exactly where to find it for that resource too. So yeah, I don't tend to use the extension as much as I should or could, because I've just always got the classroom open.
So has anyone got any questions for Laura? No. Well,
No,
Laura,
like I said, preaching to the choir.
well, maybe not, but I think in this period of COVID-19, where we're talking about the possibility of being able to do stuff remotely with our kids, a really, really timely bit of advice from you, which should be helpful whether you're a primary school teacher using Google Classroom or a college teacher. So thanks for that.
Thank you.
All right, so now it's my turn. So look, I'm going to go through and talk to you about originality reports. So as it turns out, originality reports taps in very, very nicely with what Laura's just done. So it's a feature that we use in Google Classroom. So I'm assuming that people will give a shout if the screens don't appear, because I've got to run through a number of different screens. So look, here we have a plastics assignment, a STEM assignment that we've got. I'll just open it up. So I've gone through, I've assigned a copy of a Google Doc to each student. So you can see that here, each student will get a copy. So it's just a Google Doc that I created separately. The thing that's different about this is we have this originality reports. Now, within Google, originality reports is really restrictive, but for primary school teachers, it's an opportunity for us to use the same sort of features that most colleges would have with Turnitin and other plagiarism checkers to get the kids used to using some sort of plagiarism checker. So that's what we're talking about here. I think the limit per course is only 3 reports that you can do. So if it's used judiciously, or if perhaps you might recycle your Google Classroom every term and start a new one, you might be able to stretch it and just play a little bit with it. But from a teacher's perspective, all they need to do when they set the assignment is to tick that button. End of story. That's all they've got to do. All right, so let me just stop sharing there for a moment, and let's have a look at what it looks like now from a kid's perspective. Where I'll be classwork 4. I think this is the one we might share. Right, once again, I'm hoping you'll let me know if you can't see what's going on. So here I am logged in as a student now. So I come to my assignments, plastic investigation. Now you'll see, as a student, I'm not Paul Rayner over here. My student name is 212Y7, which is why you see that prefix there. So, for kids, it will be Paul Rayner _ or hyphen types of plastic, Laura Ord hyphen types of plastic. But I go in here to my assignment, and now I can go through. So my task was to go through and put some information in about where do we find these types of plastics typically. So we know what kids are likely to do. I'm hoping you can still see that screen. So they go to a website, they come in here, and they just go through and paste in straight out of the website because they're a little bit clueless and they don't realise that we can actually see that it exceeds their ability, etc., etc. Anyway, so the kids go through and they just copy and paste and they just plagiarise to their heart's content. They come up the top here then to turn it in, and they turn in their assignment, which is what they would normally do. But the difference, once you've gone through and ticked that originality reports button, is that we see an ability to run the originality report. Now, that's over here. So that's what we want the kids to do. We want them to go through and run their own report and do their own check-in. I don't want to have to hand it back to them because they haven't gone through. Here we go. Now we're running just a bit slow. Right, so you can see there now I've actually exceeded my limit of, well, not haven't exceeded, but I'm up to my limit of 3 reports. So when the kids run the report, they come up here, view the originality report. Once again, I'm hoping that's still right. So you can see here that it's saying that both these passages are fully ripped off from the web. And if they're smart and we've taught them a little bit about plagiarism, they should have an understanding that they've got to go through and put that stuff into their own words. And so it's one way of getting the kids to take some responsibility. So I'm just going to stop sharing there for a moment. I'm just going to come back once more and show you classwork. Show you this one and show you again what it looks like from a teacher's perspective. So if we come to the assignment, hang on, just give me one moment. I haven't handed it in as a student, so now I've handed it in. I've come back. I'll just refresh this. Hopefully. Right, so here's the one that's been handed in. Just waiting. Right, now, so once that opens, if you see over here on the right-hand side, 2 flagged passages, and it shows the originality report now to the teacher as soon as that opens. And it shows that all the stuff has come from a website called trashforge.org. Right, so I think that's a really simple tool to use. It puts the onus back on the student rather than on the teacher. And if they still hand it in with all that, that plagiarism, then I guess you've got to take some sort of action to just show them how important plagiarism is, especially as they move from primary to secondary. So that is originality reports in Google Classroom. Any questions?
Paul, hi.
Hi, Kylie.
You said that you could only do 3.
Yep. Per
Can you be more
course.
specific? Pardon?
Okay. Per course.
Per course.
So
Okay.
when I use that example in an assignment, that's one instance. If you do an assignment in English and you click that box, that's 2. If you do another one in science, that's 3, and that would be all you'd be able to use. So I mean, some workarounds would be that if you get a new instance of Classroom every term, then you would be able to go through and do 3 more then. Look, my expectation is if it takes off and it's a bit of a winner, because it's only in beta format at the moment, Google may do something about that and extend it or charge us or whatever. But it's there now. It's not perfect, but it's for primary schools who don't have Turnitin. It's a great alternative.
Yeah, we did a science. We were doing a science project today, and I had clicked it before we started, and I can see now it's saying there's 3 flagged passages.
Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty handy and just so easy to use.
Because he cut and pasted everything. Awesome. I have proof. Thank you.
No worries. Okay. So we now welcome Dawn Goodman. So Dawn, as it happens, is also from St Anne's Serena. And Dawn, I think, is going to take us through Flipgrid. I think.
Is that my turn?
It is your turn, Dawn.
Okay. Share. This one. Okay. Oh, yeah.
That's good. That's
okay.
There's your screen too.
So, what I'm showing you is Flipgrid. Now, Flipgrid is a really cool little mini videos that the kids can record of themselves. You record a recording of yourself requesting something, and then the kids go on to record their own little, so instead of reading or writing, they get to video themselves and then add a few little cute widgety bits to it. So I did book week, and I'll just sort of show you what I requested of the class. And I had grade 3 this time.
So that audio is not working from our end, Dawn, but you would sort of expect that.
Okay, so basically it's just me saying, what did you dress up for book week? What's your favourite book? What do you like to do? Yeah, so basically that sort of thing. And then, so I upload this onto Google Classroom and the kids access it via that. We just have a look at our settings. And then the kids reply by themselves. So they take a little video of themselves. That's only a minute and a half. I don't know if you could hear that time.
No, that audio doesn't work unless you've ticked a box that says use computer audio, but.
Yeah, okay. Well, anyway, the kids just go in, you can set the time frame of how long that you are recording for. So it can be a minute, can be 30 seconds, can be a minute and a half. It's a really way to get especially boys engaged and them talking about, it can be anything. So we did it for religion. They had to talk about Sabbath time. What do they do as a family? You know, do they have a roast on a Sunday lunch with their families and sort of things like that? It's just a different way. We've got lots of special needs at our school, so it just gives them another avenue of giving us the information instead of writing it or presenting it also to the class, because they record it themselves. They can re-record if they need to, if they make a mistake, and then they present it. We present it later on, everyone gets to look at it, or if you're just doing it as teacher, you can just watch it yourself and don't have to present it to the class. So there's, yeah. And we have maximum participation when we do this. The kids love it. And we're doing it throughout the whole school. Yeah. Yeah, and it really tells you whether they know what you're asking them or they're not. Yeah, that's it.
That's terrific, Dawn. Again, a really timely bit of advice to remind us about Flipgrid. Any questions for Dawn?
We do.
Yes.
Hi, I'm just wondering, is there any like legality or any issues of having kids uploading videos of themselves to the internet? Because is it a fully secure server? Like a lot of stuff on Google Classrooms and Google isn't secure.
Yeah, no, they're only videoing themselves. We haven't had any issues with that. We set out strict guidelines as to what's expected, and it's only very short. Some of them have music running in the background while they're presenting their, like one had Sabbath time and they had a doorbell ringing, and there's a few sound effects and things that is actually in the Flipgrid website that they can
use, which has been really good. We've only got them uploading it to Google Classroom. We haven't had any issues with them then forwarding it on to somebody else.
And if I can just throw my 2 cents worth there. So we used Flipgrid last year for Minds at Work, which is a STEM unit where we wanted kids from across the diocese to kind of give us their pitch about what their STEM project was going to be about. They used Flipgrid to do that, but we got a permission form and we gave it to kids to get their parents to sign it. The grid was private, so no one outside me could actually, and the kids themselves could see what they presented. We did get a bit of blowback from parents who thought it was a bit, like, what's this all about? But in the end, they all agreed. And of those 100, so we got about 105 videos submitted, and the views in that week was something like 2,500, 3,000, which was just shows that the degree of interest that kids just want to see themselves, and a great way to show other stuff that they're doing. So I thought it was really worthwhile.
Thank you.
Okay, so thanks, Dawn. As I said, very, very timely, again, in this period where we're looking at different ways to present remotely. I think Flipgrid is a really great way to be able to get people on board with that. So look, last week we should have Chris Betcher. We're just going to try to string this out a little bit. Chris had a prior engagement. If you don't know Chris, he's the program manager for G Suite adoption with Google. He's presented at probably both Google summits that we've had here in Rockhampton over the last few years. There's not much about technology that Chris doesn't know. I know he's got a session prepared for us on Google Explore, but we're just going to string this out because he did have another engagement, and we're just going to throw back to me for a minute because I'm going to just have a look at Screencastify with you. My screen okay, it's all up there showing. Okay, so Screencastify is an extension that we use for Google Chrome. This is what it looks like up here in the extension bar right beside the Omnibox. Screencastify is a video recording tool that allows you to go through, record short videos, the sorts of things that Sylvia was doing in her presentation earlier. So here in this screen, can you see the Flipgrid screen? So it allows you to record just your desktop. You can embed a webcam so you can have a picture of yourself if you're so inclined. But simply you go through and record the video. So typically I would use it to record how-to videos, how to do simple processes on the computer. It gets saved in your Google Drive in a folder that it creates itself called Screencastify. And then you can use that through your Google Classroom to duplicate yourself so that if you're doing some rotations, for example, in primary school talk, if we're doing some rotations, you can have a recording there of yourself saying, okay, so what I want you to do in this particular rotation is 1, 2, 3, 4 things, just to keep reminding them while you're off doing something else in the classroom. So to me, it seems a great way just to duplicate yourself because it's recorded and saved in Google Drive. The ability to embed it in your Google Classroom is really, really easy. And, like, I think quick is better, or done is better than taking forever. So just record once. It doesn't matter how slick you make it. Its impact is not going to be any greater with kids, I don't believe. So just get it done, record it, and then you can just easily slot it. Laura wants to say something.
I actually, I used this exact extension last week with something for my Year 11 Religion and Ethics class. I needed to show them how to access the database on the library, on our library website. If you'll let me share, I can show you, because I actually uploaded mine to YouTube and then linked to the classroom, from there. So
I need you to stop sharing.
Yeah, I'll show you my little doobie and I'll do my sound screen. Okay, so this is my YouTube channel that I set up for the kids. I don't have lots of uploads, but I make lots of playlists for the kids. I'm up to about, you know, lots of them. But I made this little quick video, and like I made this at second break, like because we were in the middle of a double where they were working on the assignment. I told them about how to access the catalogue. I wasn't sure if they'd really listened, and there were some kids away. So I quickly put this together. Let's rewind to the start there.
How you access your online library sources that are really, really useful to you. So the first thing you need to do, have your student homepage open,
So I'll just fast forward
side of the
a
screen, the right-hand side of the screen. So this is our I'll move myself. This is our.
So that was a really handy thing to do. The fact that I could move because I'm a hand talker, you probably have noticed, because I was able to move that little thing during the video. It was just a really handy tool. And yeah, I could even trim the end of the video in the Screencastify app because I couldn't find the stop button and I needed to get rid of that because it was a bit embarrassing. But yeah, really easy then to upload because I upload to YouTube first and then link to the classroom from YouTube. So
That's
in action
terrific.
last week.
That's terrific, Laura. That's great input backing up that Screencastify app. Look, I think from a primary school teacher's perspective, that embedding your picture would be really useful. I personally don't like looking at myself, so I would ditch that. But I think from a primary school perspective, that would be a really handy addition to have there because it just talks to the kids.
I could actually even use that little camera to say point here and point there on the screen as well.
Yeah.
Now this is year 11s and they still liked it, so.
That's exactly right. And it's visually, it's a lot easier to do, to explain to kids how to do something rather than having to write a list of dot points or, you know, it's just easier to use the tools. So thanks for that. And the Screencastify app, you just need to search for it and it goes in and you use it as part of your Google extensions. So look, that little delay tactic has worked well because I'd like now to welcome Mr. Chris Betcher. So as I said, Chris is the program manager for G Suite adoption with Google. And Chris is going to introduce Google Explore and G Suite to us. So Chris, thanks for joining us. Over to you.
All right, thanks, Paul. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Brilliant, fantastic. So I am just on the south coast of New South Wales at the moment, just in a school in Batemans Bay, and we've just been doing some Google workshops down here with the Department of Education all day. So it's been a long day. I haven't had a chance to rehearse any of this, so I'm just winging it, but that's okay. We're amongst friends, right? I've got you, if I'm looking this way, it's because I've got you up on the big screen up here. So does anyone know what the Explore tool does? Has anyone played with it? Feel free to talk. You're all muted. Okay, I'll just carry on. So the Explore tool, so it's a tool that exists I should probably share my screen, shouldn't I? How do I do that here, Paul? I go share, desktop. I want to share the internal display, share, and...
That's all good now.
Okay, you can see my screen?
Yep.
Brilliant. Okay, so I'm going to try and use some examples here. So the first one I'll use is a Google Sheet. So I've got this Google Sheet here with some data in it. I hope you can see that okay.
Yep.
It's probably a little small, but hopefully it's all right.
No, it's clear.
And so I'm in Batemans Bay at the moment, as I said. So I pulled some data from the Australian Bureau of Statistics about Batemans Bay. And you can see here what I've got is down the side here, I've got age category 0 to 4 years, 5 to 9 years. And I've got the number of people in the Batemans Bay area who actually are in those age brackets. And you can do some cool things in here. Just before I get into the Explore tool, I can do things like, you know, if I select all those numbers there and I can click the little chart button up here, it will generate a chart for me and I can see what the age distribution across this region is like, which is kind of interesting. But, you know, it kind of, unless you're a spreadsheet person and you know what to do, sometimes that's a little bit daunting. So I'm just going to throw away this chart just by deleting that chart again, because I want to show you what the Explore tool does. The Explore tool lets you take a set of data, and even as a non-spreadsheet person, a non-data person, you know, which a lot of people don't really you're not really into spreadsheets, you know, they kind of tolerate them. Down here in the bottom corner, you've got this little button that says Explore. And when you click on that, what it does is it uses some artificial intelligence to try and make some guesses about what you might want to do with this data. So you see, for example, here, it's generated a chart here, and let's just drag it out there and just see what that chart's about. So you can see this is comparing the numbers of people in New South Wales versus the number of people in Australia in different age brackets. So that's an interesting comparison. So I'm just going to throw that away. I'm just seeing what else is in here. It's generated some other charts here. Some are meaningful, some are not so much meaningful. But what I love is this little feature up here where it says ask about the data. So I might say, you know, which age group is largest in Bateman's Bay? So I'll say which age is largest in Bateman's Bay, right? Bateman's Bay. And what it'll do when I press enter, it'll say, oh, 70 to 74 years. There's 130 of those people. So it will actually do a little analysis of the data and be able to answer questions in plain English. So by simply saying which age is the largest, it's actually figured out, well, it's the 70 to 74 year olds. If I change that and say which age is the largest in New South Wales, for example, and it'll say, sorry, I should probably say top age by New South Wales. There you go. So in that case, it's 30 to 34 year olds. So just simply by asking in plain language, that's kind of what the Explore tool in spreadsheets is all about. It's just trying to make data analysis easy for non-data people. Does that make sense? Yep. Anyone have any questions on any of that?
I mean, that's pretty cool, Chris, because that's part of the data representation strand in digital technologies.
Yeah, absolutely. We were using this data this morning, by the way, to try and dig into it in what I thought was an interesting way. You know, if you take the age column and the percentage of population, I'm just using the control key to select both, and the percentage of people in New South Wales. So I'm comparing the age groups for Bateman's Bay and New South Wales, and then I draw a graph from that. It actually gives me, now I don't want a stacked chart here, I just want a regular bar graph. And I do that. It's interesting, the blue is Bateman's Bay and the red is New South Wales. And what you find when you look at the data is things like, wow, there's a real underrepresentation of young people in the Bateman's Bay region and an overrepresentation of older people, because this is where people come to retire. So it's that kind of area. And it's interesting to see the data that sort of bears that sort of thing out. So there you go. That's an example of some things you can do with data and how the Explore tool can help in Sheets. Now, let me get out of Sheets for a second, and I want to show you how it would work in Google Slides. So this morning with the group here, we did a little activity, which I'm sure some of you have done with your kids, where you give every kid a slide, and they work on creating an example of, it's a collaborative slide deck, basically. And the thing is, when you get collaborative slide decks, you'll get kids that'll do something like this, and it's okay. It's got a heading, it's got a picture, it's got a little bit of writing, and it's all right. But like from a design point of view, it's pretty ordinary. So what the Explore tool does in Sheets, in Slides, when you go down to the Explore tool down here and turn it on, it opens up this panel on the side here, and if it can look at your slide and come up with a better idea for it, so let's try the Italy one, for example. So you can see this is the slide that the person created, and down here is the Explore tool suggesting some other design layouts that might look better. So we've got this one here, or this one here, or this one here. And in fact, if I go back to that original slide here, let's see if it's interesting. It's not suggesting anything for that one. Let's try this one. So this one here, this looks okay. Why is it not giving me good examples here? Let's see. It's having to think about this one. Okay, so here's some good examples on that one. So there's another alternative layout. There's a different one. There's another one which is using some different color schemes. So the idea of the Slides tool here is basically graphic design for non-graphic designers. So just like in Sheets, it was data analysis for non-data analysts. This is graphic design for non-graphic designers. So that's the Explore tool and what it does in Slides. And then finally, if I open up, this piece of writing, so So now I'm in Google Docs. There's a little piece of writing about something here. And there's also an Explore tool here. So if I click on the Explore tool, it's going to give me a whole bunch of other things. So for example, it's picked out some phrases here from the writing. This one, if I've seen further than others, is by standing on the shoulders of giants. So it's a quote. You can click on the quote. It'll take you out to the web and show you where it came from and where other things that might be other interesting things come from. If I click on images, it's actually suggesting some other images that might be good in this document. So for example, it's talking here about, well, whatever it's detected here that it thinks might be topically useful, it's suggesting some images that might go with that. And finally, you can also look in your drive, although it's found nothing matching in the drive there. Now, one of the things about this is I can also search the web from in that same panel. So by clicking on the link inside the Explore panel, it's taking me out to the greater web where I can go and I can look up that actual quote. If I go back to the writing here, I can actually search in here as well. So if I something else I want to put in here, so I'm searching about the idea of originality, spell it right. Right, so I'll do that. And it's now doing a little web search in here. And I might decide that I've used a quote here from this dictionary. And let's say this was the quote that I got from this source, okay? What you can do is click on the citation tool here, and it will put a little citation 1 there, and down the bottom of the page, it actually puts the citation as well. So what it's trying to do, what this Explore tool is trying to do in all of these 3 cases is use artificial intelligence and machine learning to try and help people answer questions they don't know they actually have yet, or design things that they don't know that they could do better, or look at data in a way that maybe isn't the way they originally thought of looking at it. So that's the general concept of the Explore tool. I am going to try and get my mouse back here somewhere. Zoom. There you are. Hit the share button. How do I stop sharing here, Paul?
I go up the top to see where it says stop share.
Oh, yeah. Got it. Yep. Okay. So there you go. So I just wanted to sort of jump into your meeting and say hi to you guys and just show you some of the things in the Explore tool. It's definitely one of those tools that it depends on what you're using it on as to how effective it is and the results you get. But I think it hides down there in the corner. A lot of us don't even think to click on it. Give it a shot.
Does anyone have any questions for Chris?
Not so much a question, but I've actually been encouraging kids to, rather than click on the Explore tab down the bottom, using the highlighting a piece of text and right click and using the Define tool and using the Explore tool as well.
Yeah, that works
so
well as well.
Yeah, using the right click way of doing it so they can really target it to exactly what it is they're looking for.
Totally agree. Where I think the Explore tool comes into its own sometimes is when a student isn't sure what to write. And I sometimes use the example of if you take a blank page, for example, a blank Google Doc, and you just type something like, let's say the kid's been told they have to write a report on Anzac Day, right? So they go in there and they write the heading Anzac Day, and then they kind of, I don't know what to do next. So they can simply just click on the Explore tool, and the Explore tool will simply look at the page and go, oh, you've started writing something on Anzac Day. Let me help you with this by suggesting a few sources you might like to look at next. So again, it's that idea of trying to help people take the next step that, when they're not sure what to do next, it's like, here's some suggestions. But yeah, good thought.
Any other questions for Chris? Chris, thanks for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I know you just came out of one session.
Mate, I just came out of 5 sessions.
So we really appreciate that. And we also appreciate all our presenters this afternoon. So Sylvia, Danny, Laura, Dawn, and of course yourself, Chris. And it's really important as part of what we do with our GEG that we build capacity, and we've had some great presenters here this afternoon. I've learned a heap from everyone who's presented. I'll make sure I share that YouTube live URL so that you can pass it out and get it out to your peers so that they might be encouraged to get their TED talk on for term 2. We'll only be doing one every term, but being so diverse, I think it's important that we use the technology as much as we can to be able to share and build our own capacity. So consider, talking to some other people and getting them to jump on the other side of the screen rather than just being a viewer. So thanks again, and we'll talk to you again soon.
And Paul, can I just say thank you, and on behalf of on behalf of Google, because I know you put a lot of work into organising these GEG events, and for rounding people up and keeping it all running, and thanks to all you guys for turning up and coming along. I think the GEG groups play a really important role as part of the whole ecosystem of Google Education, we like to try and support you guys any way we can, because we really appreciate the fact that you are the grassroots that make this all happen.
Good on you, Chris. Thanks for that. Talk to you all soon.
Good on you. Thanks, guys.